The Louisville Cardinals are now the favorites to land one of the top point guards in the transfer portal.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome in to this Thursday edition of the Locked On the Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. Today's episode is brought to you by FANDUEL. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head to FANDUEL.com to get started today. We've got a lot to discuss on this episode of the show. We're going to react to a recent report that suggests that the Cardinals are a team to watch for BYU guard Rob Wright. Now, I have my doubts to an extent. I'll explain at the end of the show. We'll discuss how possible is it that Louisville lands both Jackson Shelstad and Quinn Ellis, and how good of a backcourt would that be for Louisville? We're going to begin today's show by discussing and reacting to the key development in the Shelstad recruitment on Thursday. Apparently, the Louisville Cardinals are the perceived favorites to land the Oregon point guard. Now, it was a relatively slow news day on Thursday, like it was on Wednesday for Louisville in the transfer portal, but the notable news and developments were centered around the Shelstad recruitment. Not really about Louisville, but about Arizona. And I'll explain what I mean here in just a moment. But let's rewind to Tuesday. The portal opens, and the overwhelming belief is that this is a two-team race. Louisville Cardinals and the Arizona Wildcats. Now, the Wildcats are the early perceived leader. They receive a crystal ball projection. The discussion is centered around Arizona getting a weekend visit, and it would make sense, right? Shelstad is from the West Coast. He's from Oregon. Arizona's on the West Coast, so there's the West Coast appeal. The Wildcats had a dominant season coming off of a Final Four run. Tommy Lloyd just signed an extension. Braden Burries is very possibly going to be drafted in the lottery here in a couple months. Jaden Bradley was the Big 12 Player of the Year. So multiple reasons why it would make sense that Jackson would want to go to Arizona, but Louisville was involved. How serious? It was hard to tell. Well, on Tuesday, things changed, because a report came out on Tuesday evening confirming that Shelstad would be visiting Louisville on Friday, April 10th. Now, the thing to know here is that with the new portal timelines, players can't officially make visits to campus until Friday, April 10th. So by default, Louisville gets the first visit, and Arizona was set up to get a visit sometime next week. I don't know if any days ever got confirmed with that, but the word was that Arizona was going to get the second visit or one of the following visits next week. So the Cardinals getting that first visit, it's huge. Now, it's not like the closing argument, right? But it's a huge development for a recruitment that up to this point seemed like it was all Arizona. Well, Louisville gets the first visit. And mention how important it is that you close the deal this weekend. Make sure that he doesn't leave campus without committing or doesn't make any other visits, because by the time a player leaves campus, I think your chances go down drastically to land said player when they start making other visits. Well, on Thursday, we heard some other stuff. The first thing, there were two things. The first thing was the rumors coming out of that Arizona visit getting canceled. Well, that's important to note. I haven't put like all of my confidence in this report because I haven't seen like mainstream media or mainstream media members report this. But it's been floating out there that the visit to Arizona was canceled. The second thing that goes hand in hand with that development are the three crystal ball projections on Thursday around noon. All three came in a 21-minute span on Thursday afternoon. All three in favor of the Louisville Cardinals around the same time that the news came out or the rumors popped up that the visit to Arizona was canceled. So very, very interesting. Could it be that the crystal balls were a reaction to this news? Or was it an indication that there's some information out there that is leading everyone to believe that the Louisville Cardinals are firmly in the driver's seat of this recruitment? Now, I want to take a look at these crystal ball projections and who made them. The first one is Travis Branham, made his prediction at noon on Thursday afternoon. 24/7 Sports basketball analyst. He was the first person to make a crystal ball projection. The last one came at 12:21 from Chad Likens, the Devil's Den contributor, which is the Duke 24/7 site. I thought that was pretty interesting because how would the Duke writer know about that? But the second one that came 2 minutes after Branham logged his crystal ball was Jason Shear, who is the Arizona insider at wildcatauthority.com. That's the one that caught my attention. Arizona's insiders are now believing that this is shifting fully towards the Louisville Cardinals. That is notable. Very, very notable. Now, who knows why that could be? I know that there's a rumor out there that Louisville is potentially paying Jackson Shelstad $4 million. I don't think that's true at all. I don't think that's close. You probably are closer to half that number. That's the thing. It's hard to trust these rumored numbers that are out there for NIL packages, for NIL valuations, because you have to wonder, okay, why is this the number? Like, who wants this specific number to get out there? Is it one of those situations where you want to go to a school, but you want to make as much money as possible? Potentially. But I would be absolutely appalled, absolutely shocked if Jackson Shelstad gets $4 million. He's not getting $4 million from the Louisville Cardinals. It's probably closer to half that money. Now, is it a possibility that Louisville has the top bid for Shelstad? Yeah, I think it's a pretty realistic possibility. I think it's pretty realistic to assume that the Cardinals are outbidding Arizona, because that would make sense at this point. Arizona's got a lot to sell a recruit on. The success, the West Coast appeal with Shelstad, Tommy Lloyd signing the extension, the team success. So it wouldn't shock me at all if Louisville has outbid Arizona up to this point. But do I think it's to the tune of $4 million? Absolutely not. I don't really think it's close to that. Now, the unspoken truth, the obvious point of this is that you got to close. Being the favorite for a player does not matter at all. It's obviously awesome. And the developments on Thursday do not hurt Louisville whatsoever. They're very beneficial and encouraging for the Cardinals' chances, considering that he will arrive in the Derby City on Friday at some time. But you still have to close. We've seen it in the transfer portal in this NIL era, how things change so fast. Out of nowhere, things can take unexpected turns in the blink of an eye, and you have to prepare for that. You can't speak in absolutes until something happens. And at this point, I mean, it's nice to see that Louisville is the favorite for Shelstad, but until he commits and he's on campus, I'm not really going to assume that he's a Cardinal. You still have to have a successful visit. And that's where Pat Kelsey has been really successful in his time at Louisville, has been the pitch, the convincing aspect of the transfer portal visits up until this point. The first window with Chucky Hepburn and Terrence Edwards, the second window with Isaac McNeely, Adrian Woolley, Ryan Conwell, and we'll see if things can continue to work in the Cardinals' favor when Louisville gets a player on campus. Because at the end of the day, being the favorite is cool and all, but doesn't mean anything if he leaves campus uncommitted and schedules another visit next week. Because guess what? Then another team becomes the favorite. So goes without saying here that Louisville's still got to close the deal this weekend, but things are looking pretty encouraging. Now, the Cardinals are apparently the favorite to land both Jackson Shelstad and Quinn Ellis. How possible is it that both are Cardinals next season? Is it an either-or type situation? Would they prioritize both? How successful would that backcourt be? We'll discuss. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. The NBA playoffs are here, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. You can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. The app makes it super easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters when you're looking at the stars, the role players, and the key moments. Right now, my Houston Rockets are in the middle of a win streak. It's awesome to witness, and you know that I'm going to go look at those Kevin Durant player props, the Alperen Şengün player props in the playoffs coming up here soon. So head to FANDUEL.com to get started. I promise you won't regret it. FANDUEL.com. FanDuel, play your game. Card Nation, get Locked On Louisville ad-free with the Everydayer Club, plus members-only Discord access. Join at lockedonlouisville.supercast.com or click the link in the show notes to get started. So the rumors right now, the trends right now, make me believe that Louisville is the favorite to land both Jackson Shelstad, the Oregon point guard, and Quinn Ellis, the EuroLeague point guard who's from England. He plays for Milano in the Italian league. And I had a couple people ask me, do you think that this is one of those situations to where whoever commits first gets the spot, or is Louisville going to be comfortable landing both players and starting both players next season? Again, Jackson Shelstad in the transfer portal from Oregon, Quinn Ellis playing overseas in Europe for Olimpia Milano in the LBA and the EuroLeague. I think that this is a situation where Louisville would be incredibly excited if they landed both. And things seem to be trending that way. I think that it makes sense for both to coexist in the backcourt. And I'll mention why and explain why here in just a moment. But I think the Cardinals are fully prepared to take both commitments and not think twice about it. Like, I think that that's the intention. It wouldn't have got to this point with Shelstad if it wasn't, because Louisville still is the projected favorite to land Quinn Ellis. Remember the whole discussion about, well, he raised his asking price. That was, what, a week ago? Week and a half, 2 weeks ago? And what's happened? No other team has been mentioned. Maybe BYU because they lost Rob Wright, but at the moment, Louisville is seemingly still in the driver's seat. Understand that things can change very quickly. What's true on Thursday might not be true on Friday, but international recruiting is hard to gauge. It's hard to follow because information isn't as available as it is for the transfer portal recruitments. But yeah, I think that Louisville is not only prepared, but they are pushing to land both players to be starting in their backcourt next season. Now, I think that having both Ellis and Shelstad, it makes a ton of sense. Like, I'm fully bought in to that backcourt pairing. Jackson Shelstad is 6'1", 170 pounds. And I think that, of course, he can be a starter on a championship contending team, but if he's going to be your point guard, you probably want to go get a taller guard to be your 2 guard. And Quinn Ellis is 6'4", 6'5", 170 to 174 pounds. So that makes sense there. And of course, I think at that point you would want to, if you're going with a 3-guard lineup or a small forward in the starting lineup, you would want to prioritize athleticism. Defense, like a 3-and-D wing, makes a ton of sense to put next to Quinn Ellis and Jackson Shelstad. But I am not focusing so much on the heights as much as I'm focused on the skill sets complementing each other. Jackson Shelstad and Quinn Ellis are very good facilitators. They're really good ball handlers. And what you've learned in this new era of basketball is that you can never have too many ball handlers on the court. Last season, or this past season, I said the last season, this past season, what was one of the largest issues? When teams applied solid on-ball pressure, the Cardinals crumbled when Michael Brown Jr. wasn't on the floor. So if you can have 2 guards on the floor and one of them is playing at all times because you're going to set up the rotation where at certain times both of the players are going to be on the court at the same time, and at other times you're going to have a very good point guard on the floor at the very least. Like one is going to be on the court at all times, theoretically. Now, when they are on the court at the same time, Quinn Ellis is, I think, just as good off ball, just as effective off ball as he is with the ball in his hand. So for Jackson Shelstad, who's likely going to be your lead ball handler, Quinn Ellis is going to be able to play an off-ball 2-guard very easily. He already plays that role for Olympia Milano. This won't be an elite shooting backcourt, although I think it will be a respectable shooting backcourt, but the creativity and the facilitating ability is going to be off the charts. It's going to be everything that you've hoped for from a Cardinals backcourt. You have 2 floor generals that can coexist at the same time because Ellis is really good off ball, and I think that Shelstad can play off ball too, but just Ellis, I think, specializes in playing off ball, being able to utilize space, being able to move without the basketball. But 2 point guards on the floor, that's going to help the creativity of the offense, creating for the other players, and the facilitating is going to be really good. Now, I also think that from watching Shelstad and Ellis, both do a really good job at getting downhill, getting to the rim, something that the Cardinals struggled to do consistently this past season. Shelstad is extremely explosive with that first step. Quinn Ellis also is explosive, but he's a taller guard and utilizes his frame to finish around the rim. Shelstad maintains his balance and is able to create his own offense around the rim, but both also operate effectively in the mid-range, which is the rumored lost art of the game of modern basketball, and an area last year that Louisville was seemingly allergic to scoring. It was either at the rim or 3-point shots, and the offense became very predictable. It was one-dimensional. If you have Quinn Ellis and Jackson Shelstad running the show, it's not going to be predictable. It's not going to be one-dimensional. Sure, you might not be as good of a shooting team on paper as you were last season, but look at the faults of this year's offense, right? I think that you check off some of the boxes that you didn't last year. Defensively, Shelstad, I think he's serviceable defensively, but that's why I say you need to go get a taller guard like Quinn Ellis, because I think that Ellis is a serviceable defender. I think that there's some defensive potential there. So you don't have a backcourt that just struggles to stay in front of their opposing assignment. And that's why it's critical that you also go out and you get an athletic 3-and-D wing. You increase your strength in the front court, and you also get a rim protector. because you can quote unquote hide defenders that aren't that great if you have a solid collective defense around them. This past season, you couldn't really hide anyone because nobody was really great at defense. So I think that this backcourt would make a lot of sense. I think that Shelstad and Ellis both could coexist and be super successful because their skill sets complement each other. Now, there's another top portal guard that Louisville is apparently a team to watch for, and that is BYU star Rob Wright III. I've got my doubts about this report to an extent, and I'm going to explain why. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. UCLA made history by winning its first NCAA Women's Basketball National Championship, dominating South Carolina 79-51. The Bruins controlled the game from start to finish with elite defense and balanced scoring, finishing the season 37-1. Star center Lauren Betts was named Most Outstanding Player, leading a team effort that capped a 31-game winning streak. Under head coach Corey Close, UCLA secured a landmark title that has been decades in the making. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes. I'm coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Cardation, thank you so much for making Locked On Louisville your first listen of the day. Don't forget to leave us a comment in the YouTube section below. Hit that subscribe button. Both are great ways to help the show continue to grow. Now, understand that my goal every single day with this wild transfer portal window is to keep us as up to date as I possibly can. And I hope that you are finding these episodes helpful to be able to help you stay up to date. I know these episodes have been released late at night. That's because I'm waiting all day to see what happens before I talk about it. So if something happens late in the evening, chances are we won't be able to get to discuss until the next show. But there was a report on Thursday, I think it was from Joe Tipton, that mentioned Louisville, Ohio State, and Kentucky as teams to watch for BYU guard Rob Wright. Now, I know that Tipton isn't the only person to mention Louisville and Rob Wright, but I haven't really seen much that has led me to believe that this is serious interest. Truthfully, and don't get me wrong, let me start here. Rob Wright is a great player. 6'1", 183-pound sophomore, averaged 18.1 points per game this past season, 4.6 assists, 3.5 rebounds per game on 47% shooting, 41% from three, 82% from the free throw line, 1.2 steals per game. Pretty good. Like a 2 assist to turnover ratio. Rob Wright started all 35 games, played 34.8 minutes per night this season for BYU. He was a part of that big three with AJ Debansa and Richie Saunders. And if Saunders didn't get hurt, that team was going to be a fun team to watch in March. And unfortunately, we weren't able to watch that team play at full strength. But Rob Wright, fantastic player, all Big 12 third team selection. He is a guy that can take over a basketball game. But I've got some doubts about this report, and it has nothing to do with how good Rob Wright is, and it really has nothing to do with Louisville's chances. It's more so about Louisville already prioritizing Jackson Shelstad. So think of it this way, roster construction-wise, right? Redundancy was a huge talking point when you looked at this past season's roster. Louisville went out and got 3 really good players from the portal this time last year. The issue is that they all played the same position. They were all 3 combo guards that mainly were off-ball 2 guards. Maybe maybe outside of Ryan Conwell, but Ryan Conwell was still a 2 guard. Well, what ended up happening is you spent a lot of money on 3 combo guards, and you had some issues in the front court. You didn't really have a great point guard when Michael Brown Jr. got hurt. So there were some clear flaws with the roster. So redundancy is something that you want to avoid this offseason. So if that's the case, then why would Louisville be a serious contender to land Jackson Shelstad? Or I'm sorry, a favorite to land Jackson Shelstad, and then be a serious contender to land Rob Wright, and also favored to land Quinn Ellis. Quinn Ellis, I understand. Like, if you combine Quinn Ellis and Rob Wright, that makes sense. Just like if you combine Shelstad and Quinn Ellis. Combining all 3 is redundant. Combining 2 of them, combining Shelstad and Rob Wright, is redundant because Shelstad is 6'1", 170. Rob Wright is 6'1", 180. Are you willing to start 2 6'1" guards next season for a program that lacked athleticism and defense and the ability to win the physicality battle? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, why would Louisville prioritize Shelstad, host him on a visit beginning tomorrow, be the favorites to land him, and now they're serious contenders to land Rob Wright? Got to be honest. This is where I start to doubt. Like, I don't doubt that Louisville has probably reached out. I think that Wright is more of a backup plan. If things fall through with Shelstad this weekend, I could see them pivoting to Rob Wright. I'd be okay with that because he's a fantastic player. But it doesn't make sense right now. Because even if, like, it were to maybe make sense on the court, you go out and you get Wright and Shelstad, 2 6'1" guards. Let's say you get Quinn Ellis as well. You've just spent a lot of money on your team, and you have 0 difference makers in the front court. It just doesn't make sense there. It doesn't make sense. Because if you're spending top money on 3 players and 2 of them are in the backcourt, then one of them's going to be a front court player, like Flory Badunga, who, by the way, is also going to be on campus on Friday. He and Shelstad share the same agent. So maybe that's a reason why Shelstad is trending towards the Cardinals. Maybe he wants to play with Badunga and vice versa. Who knows? You don't really see package deals that often with the transfer portal, but hey, never say never when it comes to the portal NIL era. So, yeah, it just doesn't make sense. I think that if you bring both Shelstad and Wright in defensively, there are going to be some major question marks. There's going to be some redundancy with the backcourt. Now, Wright is a solid creator. He's a solid scorer. He could be a number. I think he's a number 2 scoring option. There's a possibility he could rise up into being a number 1 scoring option, but at this point, I think he's a number 2. However, he would be a good addition to any college program. It just doesn't make sense right now for Louisville, who is prioritizing the 2 guards that we just talked about, and one of them is very similar to Rob Wright, being 6'1", 175, 180 pounds. So if things were to fall through this weekend and Jackson Shelstad starts making other visits and Louisville starts to lose ground there, hey, maybe Rob Wright makes more sense for the Cardinals. But at this point, I think it's just a report based upon probably Louisville reaching out. That's just my intuition. That is going to wrap up this Thursday edition of the show. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you back here very soon. Go Cards.